Hi, we remember what we did earlier on? Exponential curves. Yes, my dear curve sketcher, have you got it? When we talk about exponential growth, does Singapore have an exponential growth in its economy? Now at this point, when we're having a global crisis, well, the growth is not that fast. But when like an emerging economy like China, at one point earlier on, they were having an exponential growth. The country was just the mass of wealth. It was just gathering so fast. And do you know what? The country with the most number of billionaires is now coming to be. It looks like China is giving USA a ride. All right, now let's get back to maths. All right, as I said, we marinate ourselves in curve sketching and we get to draw the curves better and better each time as we get to understand the principles behind it. Now if you look at this graph, well, you look at this and you see I've deliberately given you 4 different types of curves, but all looking alike. But are they similar? We're going to find out. Now if you look at it, I'm just playing with 5 and x. Now y equals to 5 to the power of x. Now it's x when it's negative, as I said to you, even if it's negative, alright, y, even if x is a negative number, if it's a minus 2, it will still be 1 over 5 squared, and that's 1 over 25. Now, so you can see that no matter how big, alright, the negative number is, if x is minus 1000, 5 to the power of minus 1000, it will still be a positive number. It will still be greater than 0. Alright? So we know earlier on that y is equal to 0 is the asymptote. It does not cross. And when x gets bigger and bigger, y gets bigger and bigger. So what's the shape of graph number 1? Alright, the shape when x is 0, y is 1. And this is y is equal to 5 to the power of x. In the case of number 2, the second graph, I put a minus there. Y equals to minus 5x. Well, 5x is all positive. Every positive number is now going to be reflected. So it's going to be negative. The y is all negative. Because this is always positive. A positive and a negative makes it a negative. So the second part of the graph, this graph is y equals to minus 5 to the power of x. Alright, so I should include part 1 and part 2 here. You got it? Alright, now let's look at the next one. Y equals to 5 to the power of minus x. We just buzzed about it earlier on. All the negative values of x, negative and negative, will make it become positive. So this will be, as x gets more and more negative, y becomes bigger and bigger, right? So, and x gets positive, all right? And x gets positive, this gets smaller, all right? Because positive and negative gives you negative. Now, so when positive and negative, it gives you a negative number, but because it's exponential, y can never be less than 0. So let me correct myself there. Have you got it? So the shape of the graph is going to be like this. At this point, when x is 0, y, 5 to the power of minus 0, it will be a 1. So the name of this graph, part 3, y equals to 5 to the power of minus x. As for this graph, this is a reflection of this graph. all the values here will be reflected because the y becomes negative. So shape of this graph, I better include part 4. The shape of this graph is just like that. All the positive reflected back, and where x-axis is the line of reflection. So this will be 0 and minus 1. And the name of this graph is y is equals to minus 5 the power of minus x. Have you got it? Alright, so this is exponential function. I hope you've got it better. Now similarly, I just like to enlarge on this. Have you seen this number e? Alright, it's a natural number. If you press it in your calculator just above the ln function, you will see that e is 2.7, 1828, 1828, 1828. Alright, so it's recurring from here to here. And we have an exponential function like y equals to ex. E is a positive number, it's just a number just like that. Alright, so when you draw your graph, y equals to ex, alright, all the negative values of x, alright, as it gets more and more negative, it gets smaller and smaller and it approaches 0. So it becomes this shape. When x is 0, y is 1. This is y equal to ex. Got it? Now if I said minus ex, when I said I wanted a graph of y equals to minus ex, what happens? It's a reflection that goes this way. X is 0 and y is minus 1. Got it? Exponential function. Now for those students who study additional mathematics, you would be very familiar with it and take note of the shape of the graph. Right? This is something, an additional information. But as for those who don't study further mathematics, it's good to know more. The more you know, the better it is. Enlarge on your knowledge. Now if y is equal to e to the power minus x, well, what's the shape of this graph going to be? Got it? Minus x. Alright, the minus values of x. Minus and minus gives you positive. That's the shape of the graph. At this point, x is 0, y is 1. Y equals to e to the power minus x. And if I want a negative, right, if I have this shape, the name of this graph is y equals to minus e to the power minus x. Alright, have no fear. It's not really that tough. Alright, what happens if I put a 4 there and x is 0? E to the power 0 will be a 1, right? And 1 times 4 will be a 4. And that is y equals to 4 e to the power x. If I put 10, this will be a 10. Alright? So please take note. And if this is a minus, I put a minus 4. Alright? So this point will be 0. And here you get a minus 4. What happens if I put an 8 here? This will be when x is 0, this is 1. 1 times 8 is 8. And at this point, when x is 0, you get a minus 8. Let me correct this. Alright? You got it? Alright. Let's look at sums like this. Alright? Exponential or powered. You look at it. There is a variation in the value of a and n. And let's take and look at the different behaviors of your curve. Can you be able to predict the shape? What is it like? Your y. In the first case, your a is greater than 0 and your x is 1. Let's take a number like y equals to maybe 3. Are you okay with that? 2, 5, 10, 100, whatever it is to your liking, a number that's positive. A whole number will be easier for you. And then when n is 1, so a, if it is 3, for example, n is 1, the power. Isn't this a straight line equation? Yes, right? So you can see that this first graph here is a linear equation. So the shape of the graph will be, got it? In the second case, all right, now I just want to say if a is less than 0, a is actually showing you the gradient. A is the gradient here, all right? If it's less than 0, it's a negative gradient, that's all. It goes downward. Now here, if you look at 2, a is greater than 0, n is 2, all right? You want a number? I choose 3 all the time to be consistent, to follow through rather than jumping around and getting more confused, all of you. A is 3, n is 2, all right? What shape will the graph be? It will be a parabola, and there'll be when x is 0, y is 0, it only has one root. So the shape of the graph is this. It will be a shape like this. There's only one root. Don't worry about it. When you say y equals to 3x squared, it's just that the rise is faster than if it's x squared, 3 times faster. If it is 10x squared, the rise of the y is 10 times faster than y equals to x squared. For every value of x, it moves up 10 times faster. That's all the number there. Now what happens if we have a is less than 0, alright, and n is still 2, look at that, okay, so what will it be? A is less than 0, take a number like for example minus 3 and x squared. What's the shape of this? Remember, it's a frown, a mountain, yes, alright. So the shape of the graph will be like that. When x is 0, y is 0. So this is y equals to minus 3x squared. Now we look at the fourth one. Hey, a is 0, less than 0. Alright, and n is minus 1. Let's look at it. A is less than 0, maybe you take a minus 3. N is a minus 1, x the power minus 1. So what will that be? Y is minus 3, the power of x. Right? Remember this, I like to combine that with the fourth one, the fifth one. The fifth one is telling you that a is greater than 0. Let's take a as 3, and n is a minus 1, 3 upon x. Look at this too. Remember what we did earlier on. X cannot be 0. Alright, so let's look at this first. The shape of this graph will be x. As x gets bigger and bigger, alright, y gets smaller and smaller. And if x is negative, alright, if x is negative, y gets a negative and a negative. You get a positive. So the shape of the graph is like this, and here the positive and negative, positive values of x with a negative number gives you negative. So this shape is for y equals to minus 3 over x. Now what about this, my dear? When we have a positive, that's really easy, right? When x is positive, y is positive. And when x gets bigger and bigger, y gets smaller and smaller. And when x approaches 0, remember we just said if x is 0.00001, when x is, alright, very close to 0, y becomes infinity. So this is the shape of this graph. Well, that's y equals to 3 over x. Now I hope you have understood what all these various graphs are. Let's look at them, and if you can recall, you would find yourself loving this chapter called curve sketching. Alright, graph made easy.